Today I'll show you how I made a process that takes a single brick texture and turns it into a pseudo-3D pillar. I really enjoy seeing 2D games that use neat tricks to give the illusion of 3D, so I wanted to try and make one myself. It's a fairly simple process, so it should be easy to follow. The main idea I had was to make some code that fills a rectangular region with a texture, but stretches each tile's horizontal width to make it look like it's being viewed at a different angle. The first thing I had to do is figure out how much to stretch each of the tiles in a row. Since a pillar is just a cylinder with a circular cross-section, I thought it would be a good idea to scale each tile by some output from a sine function. So for each tile, I set its scale to the sine of pi divided by the number of tiles wide the pillar is, multiplied by the number of the tile in the row, plus 0.5. The first part defines how big of an arc each tile represents, and the second part shifts that arc to where the tile would be in 3D space, offset by the half of a tile, so we measure from the middle of the tile rather than the edge. I ran the program and found problems immediately. I realized I hadn't taken into account the width of the tiles after stretching, so the tiles all had gaps between them. They also looked hideous because, as it turns out, low-resolution textures look really ugly when you scale them by most numbers less than 1. So I decided to change my approach. Instead of scaling the textures as I draw them, I manually created 2 more versions of the texture in an image editor, scaled by a half and a quarter. Then I added a special block of code that draws the normal texture if the scale is greater than 0.6, the half-size texture if the scale is greater than 0.3, and the quarter-size texture for all other instances. Lastly, I just drew duplicates of the row down until the region was filled. I have to say it looked pretty decent, but it was missing some kind of shading. I decided to add code so that once the pillar was done drawing, the program would draw a black vertical line over every pixel in the region, but each line had a specific transparency based on the scale, making it darker along the edges. It uses the same code from before, only instead of dividing pi by the number of tiles, it's by the number of pixels, so the shading seems more continuous. And that's the pillar done. I was considering adding perspective to the pillar, but I imagine if the pillar was used in a video game, it would make more sense for a character to walk on if the lines are straight. Maybe someone else wants to implement perspective, but I'm happy with it as it is. With the code done, it's now super easy to change all the variables and draw a bunch of pillars at a time. I think it turned out well, and it would be interesting to work on more projects like this in the future.